Welcome to Portugal, the heart of Europe. Portugal is often overlooked by travelers. Nestled on the western edge of Europe, it's a country that is small in size but vast in what it offers. When you think of Europe, it's easy to picture the bustling streets of Paris or the romance of Rome, but Portugal is often overshadowed by its bigger, louder neighbors. But what if I told you that this seemingly quiet nation holds some of the most incredible history, culture, and landscapes in all of Europe? That's exactly what I discovered as I embarked on this journey through Portugal, a country that has always had its own rhythm, far from the rest of the continent. From the cobbled streets of Lisbon to the sun-drenched cliffs of the Algarve, Portugal is full of life, yet it still feels like a well-kept secret waiting to be discovered. The beauty of this country isn't just in its sights, but in the spirit of the people, the stories they tell, and the adventures they offer. It's a place where the old world and the new collide effortlessly, and it's that perfect mix of ancient and modern that makes Portugal so magnetic. Therefore, I set off to explore this land, to uncover its hidden gems and understand what makes Portugal such a unique destination, one that continues to captivate visitors from all over the world. Lisbon, the city of light. Arriving in Lisbon, I was immediately struck by the golden sunlight that seemed to bathe the entire city. It was a warm, welcoming glow that made the city feel alive, almost as though it had a soul of its own. Lisbon, often called the City of Light, wasn't just beautiful. It was radiant in a way that felt both ancient and modern at the same time. But despite the city's allure, there's something that many people fail to understand about Lisbon. It's a city that doesn't just shine in its sunlight, it glows in its history, its art, and its people. Lisbon's charm goes far beyond the picturesque streets and scenic views. As I wandered through the city's narrow streets, lined with colorful buildings adorned with intricate tiles, it was clear that Lisbon had more to offer than just stunning visuals. In the heart of the city, I found myself lost in the old-world charm of the Alfama district. This historic neighborhood, with its maze-like alleyways and steep cobbled streets, felt like stepping back in time. But what struck me most about Alfama wasn't just its age, it was the feeling of timelessness that seemed to hang in the air. I could hear the sound of Fado music drifting out of a nearby cafe, its haunting melodies filling the evening air. Fado, Portugal's traditional folk music, tells stories of longing and love, and I realized that it was the perfect soundtrack for the soul of Lisbon itself. The city is constantly in motion, its energy palpable in every corner. Whether it's the vibrant street art that fills the walls of the Bairro Alto district or the busy restaurants and cafes, Lisbon is a place where the past and present collide effortlessly. And this unique combination of history and modernity is what makes Lisbon so special. Here, you can stand on a terrace overlooking the city and the Tagus River, and in the distance see the iconic Belém Tower, a symbol of the Age of Exploration. Right beneath it, however, you'll find trendy rooftop bars and hip cafes where the locals gather, creating a perfect juxtaposition of old and new. As I explored further, I found myself at the edge of the river where I stood in front of one of Lisbon's most famous landmarks, the Belém Tower. This fortress, which dates back to the early 1500s, once guarded the city's harbor. It's a stunning structure with its intricate stonework and distinctive manuline architectural style. But the significance of the Belém Tower isn't just in its beauty, it's in the history it represents. This tower was a departure point for many of Portugal's greatest explorers, such as Vasco da Gama, who sailed from here on his groundbreaking voyage to India. Standing before this majestic tower, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. This was a place that had seen the birth of new trade routes, new civilizations, and new connections between the East and the West. From the Belém Tower, it's a short walk to another iconic monument, the Jerónimos Monastery. This UNESCO World Heritage Site is one of the finest examples of Manueline architecture, and it's absolutely breathtaking. And just like the Belém Tower, it tells a story of Portugal's golden age when the country was a maritime power that shaped the world. The monastery was built to honor Vasco da Gama's successful voyage to India, and its intricately detailed facade and peaceful cloisters serve as a reminder of Portugal's rich history and its remarkable achievements. Lisbon's history is deeply entwined with the age of exploration. But despite the city's fame for being a hub of exploration, it's easy to forget that Lisbon also faced significant challenges in its past. In 1755, the city was struck by a devastating earthquake that nearly destroyed it. And the resilience of Lisbon's people is evident in how the city was rebuilt, emerging from the rubble as a thriving metropolis. Today, much of Lisbon's historic center still retains the charm and character that survived the earthquake, and you can see it in the grand squares, elegant avenues, and regal architecture that define the city. The past and present, the age of exploration. The age of exploration is one of the most captivating periods in history. But despite the grandeur of this golden age, when Portuguese explorers like Vasco da Gama charted unknown territories and set the stage for global trade, it is often overshadowed by the legacies of larger empires. People know of Columbus, Magellan, or the Spanish conquests, but it was the small nation of Portugal that played a key role in connecting the East to the West, forever changing the world. And the true significance of Portugal's explorations is something many don't realize until they step foot on its soil and see the monuments and stories that celebrate this incredible past. As I stood before the monument to the discoveries in Lisbon, it became clear to me that this was a city that wore its past with pride. The monument, which rises up from the banks of the Tagus River, is an imposing tribute to Portugal's seafaring history. But standing there, it was difficult to grasp the immense impact that Portugal's explorers had on the world. The monument, shaped like the prow of a ship, features figures like Vasco da Gama and Ferdinand Magellan, who each set out on voyages that would change the course of history forever. Their names are immortalized in stone here, but as I looked at their statues, I couldn't help but feel a sense of awe for their courage and the unknowns they must have faced. It was one thing to read about their journeys in a textbook, but here, in the heart of Lisbon, their legacy felt alive, real, and incredibly significant. And this sense of awe wasn't just about the explorers, it was about the incredible era they ushered in. The age of exploration was a time when the world seemed much larger and more mysterious, and Portugal's navigators were at the forefront of this global endeavor. From the African coast to the shores of India, these explorers made Portugal a global empire, linking continents through trade routes that would ultimately shape the course of history. One of the most iconic places I visited to truly feel the weight of this era was the Belém Tower, just a short walk from the monument to the discoveries. The tower itself is a symbol of Portugal's maritime power, but what struck me the most was the role it played in Portugal's world-changing expeditions. But what made the tower so remarkable wasn't just its stunning Manueline architecture or its beautiful location on the river. It was the knowledge that this very place had once been a departure point for explorers embarking on voyages that would map out the world as we know it today. Vasco da Gama sailed from here on his historic journey to India, a journey that would ultimately open up trade routes to the east and bring immense wealth and power to Portugal. Standing on the grounds of Belém Tower, I could almost hear the echoes of the past, the cries of sailors preparing for voyages into the unknown, the clink of chains, and the sound of waves crashing against the rocks. And though centuries have passed, the spirit of exploration that fueled those early journeys still lingers in the air. As I stood by the river looking out toward the Atlantic Ocean, I could feel the same winds that had once filled the sails of Portuguese ships. This wasn't just a place where history had happened. It was a place where history had been made, where the world was forever changed. It wasn't just the monuments that told the story of Portugal's age of exploration. As I walked around the Jeronimos Monastery, another nearby UNESCO World Heritage Site, the connection between history and architecture became even clearer. The monastery, built to honor Vasco da Gama's successful journey to India, is an architectural marvel with intricate stone carvings and a sense of grandeur that seems to echo the ambition of the era. But what struck me even more was the story behind its creation. The monastery was commissioned by King Manuel I as a symbol of both divine favor and Portugal's power on the world stage. As I explored the peaceful cloisters and gazed up at the magnificent Gothic architecture, I was reminded of the profound impact Portugal's explorers had, and not only on the world's geography, but on the very culture and religion of the time. And it wasn't just in Lisbon that Portugal's exploration legacy could be felt. Even in small coastal towns like Cascais, just outside the capital, you could sense the presence of the sea. Here, the ocean felt more than just a body of water. It felt like the very lifeblood of Portugal. The sea was both a challenge and an opportunity, a vast, mysterious expanse that offered the promise of adventure, but also threatened peril. The sailors who set out from Lisbon's shores didn't know what they would encounter beyond the horizon. They simply followed their ambition and their sense of wonder, believing that the world was full of possibilities waiting to be discovered. Portugal's impact on global trade was just as significant as its exploration achievements. But what I found most fascinating was how this small nation, with its seemingly humble beginnings, played such a critical role in creating the global economy we know today. The spice trade, the gold that poured into Portugal from Brazil, the connection between the Americas, Africa, and Asia, these were all parts of Portugal's legacy, a legacy that allowed the country to flourish during the age of exploration and beyond. As I delved deeper into this history, it became clear to me that Portugal's explorations weren't just about discovering new lands, they were about connecting cultures, creating economies, and building relationships that would shape the world for centuries to come. Therefore, as I walked through Lisbon, I realized that the age of exploration wasn't just a chapter in history, it was a living, breathing part of Portugal's identity. The monuments, the landmarks, and the stories told by the locals weren't just relics of the past. They were reminders of a legacy that continues to influence Portugal's culture and spirit. The explorers who set sail from these shores all those years ago may have left for distant lands, but their courage, ambition, and sense of adventure still echo through the streets of Lisbon today. Portugal, with its rich maritime history, continues to inspire travelers like myself to seek out the unknown, to venture into the future with the same spirit of discovery that once drove those great explorers. And in doing so, Portugal remains as much a place of discovery today as it was in the 15th and 16th centuries. The secrets of Fado music and soul. Lisbon, like any great city, has a rhythm of its own. But the pulse of the city is not found in its streets or squares. It's in the music that echoes through its neighborhoods, especially in the soulful, mournful sound of Fado. Fado is more than just a style of music. It's the very essence of Portugal's emotional landscape, a reflection of the joys, sorrows, and longing that define the human experience. It is a genre that resonates with anyone who has ever felt love or loss, hope or despair. And yet, as I delved deeper into the history of Fado, I realized that its origins and its profound emotional impact go far beyond what meets the ear. I first heard Fado in Alfama, Lisbon's oldest neighborhood, where the sound of the Portuguese guitar seemed to seep out from every corner. But what struck me most was how the music was more than just a performance. It was an experience, an invitation into a world of raw emotion. The singers who perform Fado often express deep sorrow, recounting tales of love lost, longing for home, or the hardships of life. As I sat in a small, dimly lit Fado house, I realized that Fado isn't something that can simply be understood. Intellectually, it must be felt, experienced in the gut. It tells the story of the country's past, its struggles, its joys, and its unbreakable spirit. For anyone visiting Lisbon, experiencing Fado is a must. It's not just about hearing the music, it's about feeling the heartbeat of the city, understanding the rhythm of life in Portugal, and connecting with a history that has shaped the nation. In the end, Fado is a reminder that while life is fleeting and often filled with sorrow, it is also incredibly beautiful, and it's through the pain that we find the deepest meaning. The magic of Sintra Fairytale castles. Just a short drive from Lisbon, Sintra feels like something straight out of a dream. But despite its proximity to the bustling capital, Sintra is an entirely different world, a place where time seems to slow down, and the air is thick with the scent of pine trees and the sounds of nature. This small town, nestled in the hills of the Serra de Sintra Mountains, has been a beloved retreat for royalty and artists for centuries. As I wandered through the narrow streets, I couldn't help but feel like I had entered a fairy tale, surrounded by lush forests, whimsical palaces, and mysterious gardens. Sintra is home to some of the most fantastical and picturesque castles in Europe, and the first one I visited was the Palácio da Pena. The palace stands atop a hill, visible from almost anywhere in the town, with its vivid colors and eccentric design. But what struck me most about Palacio da Pena wasn't just its beauty, it was the story behind it. Built in the 19th century by King Ferdinand II, the palace is a striking blend of Gothic, Renaissance, and Manueline styles, with turrets, towers, and ornate decorations that seem to belong to another time altogether. It's a structure that defies convention, as though it were plucked from the pages of a fantastical novel. As I explored the palace's rooms, each one more ornate than the last, I couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. And that's the magic of Sintra. It isn't just about seeing beautiful buildings. It's about experiencing the feeling of being transported to another world. Every detail in the palace seemed to have been designed to evoke awe and delight, from the intricate carvings on the doors to the colorful tiles that adorned the walls. Even the gardens surrounding the palace felt like something out of a fairy tale, with winding paths, hidden fountains, and views that stretched for miles. But Sintra's magic doesn't stop with Palacio da Pena. A short distance away lies another incredible landmark, the Moorish castle, which dates back to the 8th century. But unlike the grandeur of Palacio da Pena, the Moorish castle is a more rugged, ancient structure. The stone walls, now partially ruined, tell the story of the castle's long history as a fortress that once stood watch over the surrounding landscape. As I climbed the narrow staircases and walked along the castle walls, I felt like I was stepping back in time, imagining the soldiers who once stood here, guarding against invaders from the distant lands of North Africa. And just as with the Palacio da Pena, the views from the Moorish castle were breathtaking. From the top of the castle walls, I could see the entire town of Sintra laid out below me, with the lush hills surrounding it like a protective embrace. The beauty of the landscape, combined with the history of the castle, made me feel as if I were in a place suspended between time, where the present and the past coexisted in perfect harmony. Sintra also holds the Quinta da Regalera, another extraordinary site that captivated my imagination. This palace and its surrounding grounds are shrouded in mystery and symbolism, with hidden tunnels, wells, and grottos that lead to secret gardens and fountains. But as I ventured deeper into the Quinta da Regalera, I began to realize that it wasn't just the architecture that made this place so special. It was the sense of magic that permeated every inch of the estate. The owner of the estate, a wealthy Portuguese aristocrat named Carvalho Monteiro, was a man obsessed with the occult and esoteric traditions. And that influence is evident throughout the estate, with symbols of alchemy, mysticism, and Freemasonry hidden in the designs of the buildings and the layout of the gardens. It felt as though I had stumbled upon a secret world, a place where every stone had a hidden meaning and every tree had a story to tell. And that's the essence of Sintra. There's always something more to discover. Whether it's the royal palaces, the ancient castles, or the hidden gardens, Sintra is a place that invites you to explore and get lost in its mysteries. The town itself, with its charming cobblestone streets, old-world cafes, and colorful houses, is a perfect complement to the magical landmarks that surround it. But what makes Sintra truly special is the feeling of enchantment that fills the air. It's as if every corner of this place is infused with history, legend, and a touch of the surreal. Sintra has long been a haven for artists and writers drawn to the town's natural beauty and its otherworldly atmosphere. The poet Lord Byron famously visited Sintra in the 19th century, and in his letters he described the town as a glorious Eden. And it's easy to understand why Sintra inspired so many creatives. There's something about the town that feels magical, as though it exists in a world of its own, separate from the hustle and bustle of modern life. It's a place where time seems to stand still, where you can lose yourself in the grandeur of the palaces or the serenity of the gardens. Sintra's allure doesn't just lie in its palaces and castles, it's in the very atmosphere of the town. But what truly makes Sintra magical is the way it combines nature, history, and imagination into one breathtaking experience. The mountains, the forests, the mist that often rolls in from the ocean. These elements come together to create a sense of wonder that is unlike anything else. Sintra feels like a place where dreams are made, where stories are written, and where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Therefore, as I walked through the enchanting streets of Sintra, I realized that this town is more than just a collection of beautiful buildings and landscapes. It is a place that invites you to lose yourself in its mysteries, to explore its history, and to experience a sense of wonder that feels timeless. Whether you're visiting the grandiose Palacio da Pena, wandering through the ruins of the Moorish castle, or uncovering the secrets of the Quinta da Regaleira, Sintra is a place that captures your imagination and leaves you with a sense of awe that stays with you long after you've left. Porto, the city of bridges and wine. Leaving behind the fairy tale world of Sintra, I journeyed north to Porto, Portugal's second largest city. But where Lisbon is bright and bustling, Porto immediately feels a bit more laid back, almost like it's savoring its time in the spotlight. Nestled along the Douro River, Porto is a city that seems to be built into the very landscape itself. It's a place where history is written in the stones of the buildings, where the river itself carries stories of centuries-old trade, and where every street seems to have its own secret to reveal. As I walked through the narrow, winding streets of Porto, it was impossible not to notice the city's famous azulejos, decorative ceramic tiles that adorn many of its buildings. But what fascinated me the most about Porto wasn't just the tiles or the grand architecture, it was how the city seemed to pulse with an energy all its own. From the bustling Ribeira district along the river to the narrow alleys of the historic center, Porto is a city that invites exploration, where every corner turned offers a new discovery. The city feels vibrant and full of life, but with an old world charm that gives it a timeless quality. Perhaps the most iconic feature of Porto is the Dom Luís May Bridge, which stretches majestically across the Douro River, connecting the historic city center to the wine cellars on the southern bank. But the bridge isn't just a feat of engineering. It's a symbol of the city's deep connection to the river and its history of trade. The bridge itself, with its elegant arches and sweeping curves, feels like a living testament to Porto's enduring spirit. Walking across it, I couldn't help but marvel at the view. Below, the river wound its way through the city, its waters reflecting the late afternoon sunlight. The sound of the waves against the bridge and the sight of boats gliding below created a sense of calm, even amidst the bustle of the city. And this bridge leads directly to another of Porto's most famous features, its port wine. The southern bank of the Douro River is home to numerous wine cellars, where the world-renowned port wine is aged and stored. It's no secret that Porto is the birthplace of this sweet, fortified wine, and it's here that I had the opportunity to experience the art of winemaking up close. But what struck me most about Porto's relationship with wine was how deeply it is woven into the fabric of the city's identity. This is a place where wine isn't just a product, it's a way of life, a tradition that has been passed down through generations. I had the chance to visit one of the historic wine cellars and take a guided tour through the maze of barrels and vats where the port wine ages. And as I tasted the rich, velvety wine, I realized that each bottle of port tells the story of the Douro Valley. The valley itself, just upstream from Porto, is home to terraced vineyards that produce the grapes used in port wine. The land is steep, the soil is rich, and the climate is perfect for growing the variety of grapes that give port wine its distinctive flavor. But as I learned from the local winemakers, the secret to good port isn't just in the grapes, it's in the care, the patience, and the passion that the winemakers put into every bottle. It's a craft that takes years to perfect, and you can taste the dedication in every sip. Beyond its connection to wine, Porto is also a city of contrasts. The Ribeira district, with its colorful buildings and narrow streets, is a place where old-world charm meets modern life. But the real magic of Porto lies in how it blends the old with the new. In one part of the city, you'll find centuries-old churches and medieval structures. In another, sleek, contemporary architecture that gives the city a youthful vibrancy. Walking through the city's streets, I could see how Porto has embraced modernity without losing its historic character. The juxtaposition of these two worlds, past and present, makes Porto feel like a living, breathing city that honors its history while looking to the future. One of the best ways to experience Porto is by simply walking along the Douro River, taking in the views of the river, the city, and the surrounding hills. But Porto is also a city best enjoyed with a glass of its famous port wine in hand. Whether at a riverside cafe or perched on the terrace of a wine cellar, enjoying a glass of port while watching the sunset over the river is an experience that perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the city. The river seems to reflect the warmth of the sun as it sinks lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over the city's colorful buildings and the iconic bridge that spans the Douro. And just as Lisbon had its miradouros, those stunning viewpoints that offer breathtaking views of the city, Porto has its own panoramic spots that offer equally impressive vistas. One of the best views in the city can be found at the Jardins do Palácio de Cristal, Crystal Palace Gardens. Perched on a hill above the city, the gardens offer sweeping views of the river and the city's rooftops, with the Dom Luís the Rudd Bridge and the wine cellars on the opposite bank in full view. But what makes this viewpoint so special is that it offers a unique perspective of Porto 1, where you can appreciate the layout of the city, its relationship with the river, and the way its architecture stretches out in every direction. It's a place to pause and reflect on everything you've seen and experienced in Porto, a city that feels as though it is constantly evolving, but still deeply rooted in its traditions. Therefore, as I sat on the terrace, sipping another glass of port, I realized that Porto isn't just a place, it's a feeling. It's a city that invites you to slow down, to savor the moment, and to appreciate the beauty in both the big and small things. Whether it's the majestic bridge that spans the Douro River, the wine that flows from the land, or the colorful streets that wind their way through the city, Porto is a place that reminds you to enjoy life at a leisurely pace. It's a city that makes you want to linger just a little longer, savoring each sip, each view, each moment of discovery. Porto isn't just a destination, it's an experience, one that stays with you long after you leave. Porto's rivers, the Douro Valley. Porto is a city defined by its connection to the Douro River. And while the city itself is enchanting, the true heart of Porto's identity lies further upstream in the breathtaking Douro Valley. But despite Porto's vibrant streets and colorful architecture, I soon discovered that the true magic of the region could be found along the river that winds through the valley, carrying with it centuries of history and tradition. The Douro Valley isn't just a place. It's a living testament to Portugal's relationship with its landscape and its craft, especially when it comes to wine. As I ventured beyond the city limits, I was immediately struck by the dramatic beauty of the Douro Valley. But what surprised me most was how the landscape seemed to change with every twist of the river. The valley is narrow and steep, with terraced vineyards stretching up the hillsides, their rows of grapevines tracing the contours of the land. It's a place where nature and human hands have worked together for centuries, shaping the land into one of the most renowned wine regions in the world. The Douro River itself seems like the lifeblood of the valley, providing the water that nourishes the vines and connecting the various wine estates and villages scattered along its banks. One of the best ways to explore the Douro Valley is by boat, and I had the chance to take a leisurely cruise along the river. But as we drifted downstream, I couldn't help but marvel at the views on all sides. The river curved gently through the valley, framed by steep hills dotted with ancient stone terraces. Along the shores, small towns and quintas, wine estates, seemed to cling to the hillside, their whitewashed buildings standing out against the green of the vines. The tranquility of the river, combined with the sheer beauty of the valley, created an atmosphere of calm that made everything else feel distant, almost as though time itself had slowed down. And it wasn't just the landscape that made the Douro Valley so remarkable. It was the sense of history that seemed to be etched into every vine and every stone. The valley has been home to viticulture for thousands of years, with the first terraces being constructed by the Romans around 2,000 years ago. But what really sets the Douro Valley apart is its role in the production of port wine, the region's famous fortified wine. The steep slopes of the valley are perfectly suited to growing the particular grape varieties used to produce port, and for centuries, families have tended the land, passing down their knowledge and techniques from generation to generation. As I left Portugal, I felt more than just gratitude. I felt changed. I came for the beauty and history, but found something deeper, a quiet soul that lingers in the music, the sea air, and the warmth of its people. From Lisbon to the Azores, every place told a story. Not just through castles or cuisine, but in simple, generous moments. A shared glass of wine, a fisherman's smile, the echo of Fado at night. Portugal welcomed me slowly and sincerely and made me feel at home. It's not a country you just visit. It's one that seeps into you quietly until you carry it with you. I leave with more than memories. I leave with a sense of belonging. Maybe you will too.